What up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm J and we are locked in. Our new TV series is The White House Plumbers on HBO Max. Now, it's a political drama series that tells the true story of an infamous Watergate scandal. Set in the early 1970s, the show is going to follow two federal employees, E. Howard Hunt and G. Gordon Liddy, who are tasked by the Nixon administration to plug intelligent leaks and stop the flow of damaging information released to the press. Their actions become more and more unethical. They become more embroiled in the web of deceit and corruption that ultimately leads to the downfall of President Nixon. White House Plumbers offers a compelling and suspenseful look at one of the most significant events in American political history. Now, if you're new to the channel, you like breakdowns, theories, predictions, reviews, recaps, then hit your subscribe button and turn your notification bell so you get something every time I upload. Make sure you hit that like button. Follow me on Instagram right here. Now, let's go ahead and jump into it. This is The White House Plumbers, Episode 1 Recap. We start the episode off in front of the Watergate building. Now, this is one of the many attempts that they have tried to break into Watergate. Of course, this one right here is going to be unsuccessful, but as you can see, this is our guy Hunt. Then we got Gordo a little bit further down with a thick mustache. We're going to understand who they are. We're going to break down their characters as we go. But right now we have the whole group of White House Plumbers. Like I said, this attempt was unsuccessful, and they're going to try to make many more attempts to get into Watergate, where eventually they do. But as of right now, this is a failure. Upon this first entry, they aren't able to get in there. Now, it's a drama, but it's also a little bit of comedy. Howard Hunt is the one that brought in everyone else to be part of the White House Plumbers. And when they get in here, they're trying to break into the Watergate office, but the guy, he doesn't have the right tools. So this is why it was unsuccessful on this attempt. This was attempt number 2 to try to get into Watergate. He did mention he didn't have the tools, but he does have the tools at home. But unfortunately, at this moment, we don't have them, and they couldn't get into Watergate. So it was a failure. Howard Hunt, the star of the show, former CIA agent, now he has this job because at one point, everyone respected him, but now no one's trying to hire him. And you know how it is when you're sitting at work, looking out the window thinking, what am I doing here? You don't really enjoy your job, but you know you need to do your job because rent is due. And that's the same thing for Howard Hunt right now, because he's looking for that big break to show people I still have it. I'm still able to get out here and make things happen. We know Howard's trying to get back on his feet and show people he's still ready to do what it takes out here to make it happen for the United States of America. Of course, he has his family issues back at home. His wife's name is Dorothy. She used to be a secretary, so she has a little bit of experience also in the federal agencies. But Hunt's been waiting on this call, and he thinks it's going to be his big break because there's been Pentagon leaks, meaning people have documents, and we see that going on right now. A 21-year-old just got arrested for it. Well, there's leaks coming from the Pentagon, and they want to bring in Hunt. The president specifically wants a badass to come in and figure out who is the one leaking this information and how can we discredit them. So Hunt, he thinks this is the perfect opportunity. Now we get introduced to Gordon Liddy, former FBI agent. Basically the same thing happened. He was once in the FBI and kind of got pushed to the side, and here he is. Now he's training his secretary on how to defend herself just in case, because you know that FBI training, they do give you that hand-to-hand combat. Now when Howard sees it, they kind of clash. Former CIA, former FBI, two different agencies who were technically against each other at one time. This is going to be interesting. Gordon and Howard are going to clash a lot. FBI, CIA, we get it. But when they get in here, this clashing comes to a halt because their new boss says, listen, there's only one thing you guys are going to do. You're going to work for the SIU, Special Intelligence Unit. You're going to report to me, and that's it. There's no other way around this. So you either take it or leave it. And at this point, they both want to get their feet back into the real political side. And they're thinking, hey, we'll take this job. We'll put our differences aside because they want this money and they definitely need these checks. They both have family stuff going on. At Howard's house, he has a teenage son. He has a younger son. His wife is trying to hold it all together. Now she supports Hunt, and he keeps telling everyone this is his big break. Now he's in the Special Intelligence Unit. He's thinking, my career is about to take back off. Dorothy, she's just gonna have to hold it down for everybody at the house until Hunt can really figure out what's going on. But trust me, it's gonna get a little bit deeper. Just Pay attention. Back at the office for the SIU, we meet Mark Felt, Associate Director of the FBI. Now they're looking for a guy named Ellsberg. He's the one that's been releasing the documents from the Pentagon. So there is a leak. Now what they're talking about is he has a doctor out in Beverly Hills. What they want Howard and Gordon to do is to find whatever they can on Ellsberg to discredit him, his mental health issues, anything that he has that could be damaging. So when you put it out in the public, hey, this guy wasn't in his right mind. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's leaking documents. So now they're about to put this team together of Gordon and Howard and send them to Beverly Hills to start doing a little bit of special investigating. We have two partners, opposite ends of the spectrum, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Central Intelligence Agency. Now they got to work together and they're trying to figure out what does the doctor actually have in these files. But we know with HIPAA and the confidentiality from doctor to patient, he never ever released that information over to the FBI. So that's why they have to go out there, basically be spies, break in and get this information. Gordon wants to know how they're going to be able to get this information if the FBI couldn't. And Howard says, listen, we don't have to actually steal his information. If we can just get a picture of his file, we can make people believe that he's in bed with the Russians. And that's why this Pentagon leak happened. It's not just somebody trying to expose us. It was actually a whole nother country. Now their boss is listening to it. He's thinking that might work, but you two better not get caught doing it. And of course, Howard has some old connections. For the trip to Beverly Hills, we need to get us a disguise. Howard takes us over to one of the CIA old stash houses, and this guy has everything you need in there. Wigs, outfits, anything that you need to be in disguise. So they need to come up with different personas and act like different characters when they go out to California, so this can't be traced back to him. Now Gordon, they put like a little hedge, like a little wedge inside of his shoe, so when he walks with a limp. Most of the time, people, you might not remember their face, but you'll remember if someone has a huge limp. So that's how they're going to throw people off. For Gordon, Howard has this ridiculous wig on, but we need to get to Beverly Hills and get these files. Now, when they go out to California, they have to do a little bit of surveillance. They're in full costume. They go to the doctor's office. They get a lady to take a picture of them in front of it so it can have the doctor's name in the back. And then they start taking pictures in front of the cars, looking like tourists. Now, you know, Gordon, he was former FBI. So if you see how he's leaning on the car, he's not putting his fingerprints on it because he doesn't want to be traced. But what they're trying to do is get pictures of the cars and start documenting everything they have out here. So when they try to put this propaganda out about everything that's been going on with these Pentagon leaks, it won't trace back to anybody and it looks believable. They actually go into the building. Now they can't get into Dr. Fielding's office because it's locked, but there is a cleaning lady. And Howard, he speaks some Spanish. He speaks it fluently, actually. So he tells her that they need to get into this office because Gordon, that's not his name, Gordon is a doctor and he needs to get in there and get a couple of files. Now the lady goes ahead and opens it up. He gives her $1. Gordon's on the inside taking pictures of every single thing in the office because the files are locked. But that's all they needed was a picture. They got their information. They hop on a plane. This is back in the 70s. Howard smoking cigarettes on here, playing the piano. The stewardess is coming around serving them drinks. He doing a little bit of flirting. He talking about, let me get your number. I write books, your address, and I'm gonna send you one next time I'm on this side of the country. Now you hear Gordon saying, hey man, what are you doing with that number? Let me see that number. You're a married man. Howard says, yeah. Hunt is. Edward is it? Edward is his new character. So they gotta keep this going. Once they get back to the office, the operation has been successful. Now we need to send this up to the higher ups and see if they can approve of us actually going back and getting the physical file. We got the pictures. We know what's in there. Let's make it happen. Now, the SIU boss, he's saying this is great work. Y'all keep it up. These two, Gordon, Howard, the partnership is starting to grow. With any partnership, you got to get to know each other. We're going to be around each other a lot. You need to know my family. I need to know your family. We need to start building a bond. Once they get over to Gordon's house, we get introduced to the Brady bunch. All the kids are lined up. Nice to meet you, Mr. Hunt, someone with the intelligence like you that serves this country. It is a blessing to be in your presence. Now, Gordon got the kids lined up, but he tells them, go on upstairs now. We need to talk a little bit of business, get a little drink too. But if you look at his family, this is how it is. He was in the FBI. He likes things to be perfect. You see how Hunt is moving. He's a little reckless, but at least Gordon, he wants to have some organization in his life. Now they get to know each other's background. Their wives introduce themselves, and actually, Dorothy and Howard met each other while they were working with the CIA. She was in China, he was in China. Her job was to get artifacts that were stolen from the Nazis back to the people. Now, this is where things get a little weird. Gordon is German. He has records playing of Hitler in the background, and for him, he's listening to all of this, and it's because he used to get bullied when he was younger. So he heard these words. Now, he's not a Nazi. He heard these words, and he said, hearing Hitler's voice, it was encouraging and motivating him. Howard and his wife were looking like, turn this nonsense off and turn it down right now. Some kids throw some eggs, and out of nowhere, we see Gordon dip out. We're wondering, where did he go? Now, if you look in the back, after the kids threw the eggs, you see Gordon hanging off the second floor. He has a gun in his hand. He actually goes upstairs, get his gun, climbs out the window, and goes to chase after the kids that threw the eggs. Now the Hunts are in here listening to all this propaganda, and they're thinking this is kind of weird. But hey man, this is the partnership that they're in. After that weird night, we get back to the SIU office, and we're finally getting some money. We need to head back to Beverly Hills to try to get the files. Now they give them some cash and say go exchange it at a bank so it isn't traced back to us. And don't break into it because you guys work at the White House. They cannot be caught breaking into Dr. Fielding's office. So Howard is saying, oh, don't worry. I got some outside people that can help us with this. When they get back to Beverly Hills, 3 Cubans pull up. Now they try to valet park their car and the guy says, are you staying here? They said no. He said, well, go put your car in the garage. So they have to go back to the car. But when they get up here, remember, Howard said he knew some outside people. These 3 Cubans. In this history lesson, they are Bay of Pig. Now, if you don't know about the Bay of Pig operation, this is where they went down to Cuba to try to get information on Fidel Castro. And there was a lot of stuff going there. You can go back and look up. It's called the Bay of Pigs. Now we got our 3 people that are going to break in and get this information. We just have to do a little stakeout. Gordon, you guys seen how he was with the Nazi propaganda. He actually has a scope from a rifle. Now, there's no reason for him to have this scope because they can actually see the doctor's office from where they're parked. And Howard is asking, why do you play all of that? And that's where I was explaining earlier. He said for him, he's not a Nazi or anything, but growing up in Germany, hearing that voice, it just made him want to get up and go do stuff because people used to pick on him in the little town that he was from. Now, Howard's not really trying to hear none of that because he has one thing on his mind. Get Ellsberg's files out of Dr. Fielding's office. All right, the doctor left, follow him back to the house. Now, when they get there, Howard is trying to say, hey, stay calm. We got this. I'm gonna stay here and watch the doctor. You go back and run point with the Cubans because they got to break in. And we seen that the Cubans, as soon as they landed, they took a page out of my book, went to the room and opened up some bottles. Now, they need to go in there and make this work. Gordon goes back with them and he takes one of these old antique walkie-talkies. If anything goes wrong, call back to Howard. Now, these walkie-talkies, they are terrible. Once Gordon gets back to the doctor's office, he's with the Cubans. Now, he's supposed to radio when he got there. So he's saying, come in, I can't hear you. Copy, I can't, no copy. Say again. Now, Howard is trying to tell him that the eagle is still at the nest, meaning the doctor is still at his house. Go through with what we got to do. But the radios aren't working, so communication is cut. The Cubans, they're over here talking about the walkie-talkies don't work. They can't get into the office because the back door was supposed to be left unlocked, but it wasn't. Now, Gordon, he can't touch or do anything, so he tells them, look, there's a door right there, break the glass and just go in that way. But y'all need to get in and out ASAP. Now, the Cubans, they on the inside. They supposed to be looking for these Ellsberg files. Well, Guess what? Those radios ain't work. And Howard, he's trying to call, but he hears that it's not going through. He speeds back to the doctor's office. Gordon is sitting there saying, hey, why didn't you radio this in? He said, the radios ain't working, man. The doctor is on the way. Where are the Cubans at? Well, the Cubans are on the inside and they are tearing shit up. They supposed to be looking for a foul, but they can't get into the foul cabinet. So they tearing up everything in there to make it look like a junkie broke into the doctor's office to find some drugs and tore up everything. But they gotta go because the doctor is back on his way. Now Howard, he looks at this as a positive. Gordon heard, wait, y'all tore up everything and spread drugs around on the ground to make it look like a junkie went in there? Who's gonna believe that a junkie that went there for prescription drugs got in there, brought his own drugs, threw it on the ground and opened up the file cabinet? They were like, hey man, we had to make it look like a junkie did it. But they popping champagne and Howard says, well, at least with this, we know the foul is at the doctor's house and it's not in the office anymore. So let's celebrate. I mean, in their defense, they did go in there and do exactly what you wanted. They were supposed to be inconspicuous, but hey, we had to break the back window. It was already looking like a robbery. So they just tore it up a little bit more, but they got files, they got pictures. It looks like a win-win for the agency. And that's one thing about life. Just because work stops, life doesn't stop. And when Howard flies all the way back to his home, he gets there and only finds out that his daughter has basically dropped out of college and came back home because she doesn't want to go to school. Remember, this is the 70s. Things were a little bit different. People were hippies. And Howard is saying, no, you can't drop out of school. I had a bad day. You had a bad day. Let's think about it. But you need to go back to school. After hearing all of that, getting the files, breaking into the office, staging it to look like it was a robbery, they get back. SIU boss is fired. They're fired. And they're thinking, whoa, we just did everything you guys asked. Now the new boss is saying, listen, you were fired, but now you're hired to the committee to re-elect the president, aka Creep, CREEP. Liddy, you're gonna be in charge of it. And Liddy steps up and says, I want Howard to be my assistant to this, an advisor. He's like, okay, cool. Whatever y'all need to do, as long as the president gets reelected, you guys got it. Howard says, hey, we're gonna need a little bit of money for it. We need a budget. He said, how much do you need for the budget? $1 million. He said, okay, whatever you need, because their mission is to make sure that the president gets reelected. Back at the CIA headquarters, they're also doing some work on their own. They got some old equipment that's been used and they start developing some pictures. You remember the stash house they went to? They got the equipment, walkie-talkies, cameras, the wigs, the outfits. Well, that camera went back to the CIA. The CIA developed the pictures. So now this is one way that they started tracing what the White House Plumbers are doing, because they need to figure out who these two gentlemen are on the CIA camera. There you go, the recap for episode 1 of the White House Plumbers. You got to actually watch it so you can see where the comedy is coming from. It's a little bit political, it's a little drama, it's got some comedy in it, but overall I think they did a great job. And you know, I like history, so seeing this and actually knowing what's going on behind the scenes, I'm definitely tuning in. Make sure you tune in next Tuesday night where we'll have the after show for episode 1 and 2. Man, this is a great show. White House Plumbers, HBO Max. I'm Mo.J. If you like this kind of content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'm out.